All right, Eric Arnold here. It's Saturday morning. I don't know. 1 o'clock, doesn't matter. 19th of August, Politics Barn episode. We're going to have a mismatch of things here. Just things that are on my mind. A little Joe Biden, a little Donald Trump goes to jail, a little where are we at in the world right now. I've got another episode in my mind that I don't know we're going to make the episode, frankly. It's basically a rundown of the scenarios after Donald Trump is imprisoned. And frankly, I'm a little nervous and self-censoring myself about that type of an episode. And I'll get to that in a moment. But at any rate, so where are we at? Okay, did you know that Robert L. Peters is a pseudonym for Joe Biden? Yes, I mean, this bastard, this son of a bitch, while he was vice president, was using, among other things, I'm sure, he probably had multiple pseudonyms, but this was a name that he's using in official government emails. Those emails belong to us. You're doing official business. Don't be calling yourself something else. You are Joe Robinette Biden. So be that. Be the vice president. Don't send messages out under Robert L. Peters. So the message that's super suspicious is, in fact, just the fact he's using a pseudonym is super suspicious. But there's an email that the House Republicans have uncovered from his little assistant coming to Robert L. Peters, and it says, boss, and then it describes his schedule for the day, of which at 9 o'clock he had a meeting with President Poroshenko. President Poroshenko, at the time this message was sent, which I'm going to say was either 15 or 16, was the president of the Ukraine. So what's suspicious about that? Well, the fact that he's not sending it to Joe Biden, he's sending it to Robert L. Peters. Guess who CC'd on the message? Hunter Biden. So the assistant to the vice president of the United States is CCing the vice president's schedule about a meeting with the president of the Ukraine to Hunter Biden, who has an obvious and monetary interest in the Ukraine, in that he's sitting on the board of this Ukrainian oil and gas company for the sole purpose of getting them out of trouble with the Attorney General of the Ukraine. So now Joe Biden's going to meet with the Attorney General's boss, and Hunter Biden is CC'd on the message, all while he's using a pseudonym of Robert L. Peters. How much more suspicious can you get? It's ridiculous. He's as corrupt as a $3 bill. This idea that this man is running this lawfare operation against his opponent in the upcoming election, and people are taking it at face value, is so infuriating. It's ridiculous. Oh, by the way, also, here, Marco Polo, if you want to see the laptop itself, of which this message is on the laptop. I did verify that. I've read large parts of the laptop, just for fun, just to see how the other half lives. But there's a website, Marco Polo, I believe it's run by an ex-Trump staffer, where he got a copy of the laptop. And then it's all, probably most of it's there. I think he says he redacts some obvious personal stuff, but for the most part it's there, that probably pictures of Hunter Biden arguing with hookers about amounts of cocaine on there. This email from the assistant to then Vice President Joe Biden, aka Robert L. Peters, about the 9 o'clock meeting with Poroshenko, which Hunter Biden has been CC'd on the message. Now, it's unknown if Hunter Biden was on the call. He probably was, you know. Why wouldn't he be? You know, why was he CC'd on the call or the message? But at any rate, Marco Polo is a website where you can get access to the Hunter Biden laptop. Now, another thing that's on that links back to the Peters pseudonym, a name that pops up over and over again in the Hunter Biden WhatsApp type stuff and phone and text and what have you, is a name, a contact called Pedo Pete. Pedo Pete, which no one knows what that is or who it is, but based on the usage of it and where it's linked to and how it goes, most people think it's this guy, Joe Biden. That it's Joe Biden himself, is Pedo Pete. Unknown, likely is. Why is he Pedo Pete? That's weird. Why does Hunter Biden call him that? Weird. You know, I know one thing I would never, ever call my father as a pedophile. Never. So that's kind of weird there. But at any rate, all right, so that's your Joe Biden is a criminal dose for today. Now, I've been feeling a little, and let's make sure the camera's still working here. Is it still working? Everything seems to be still going here. I've been a little down for the last 36 hours. I talked politics with 2 Biden voters in the past 48 hours. One's a Republican. I know you Trump people don't think these people exist. They do exist. I know a number of them. Yeah, I get it. You know, you're saying, why are you friends with them? You know, life isn't all politics at the moment. It's heading that way, sadly, it is. But for the moment, you know, you can still have a relationship with somebody and then think differently politically. It's still possible, but I don't know for how much longer. But at any rate, Republican, voted for Biden. Then the other one is a really sad case. You know, a member of the inner circle and hardcore leftist, just hopeless. So the Republican, I think it's possible that we could get this one. I think it's 40-60 that if Trump is on the top line of the ticket in 24, that maybe we can get this vote, that we could bring him back into the fold. Basically, you know, this is what's at stake, and you need to come back. I was thinking about, you know, the party splitting, you know, which is certainly a high probability here in that whether it be the Never Trump people, Trump's in jail, and people are just going to say, I am not voting for Donald Trump, even if he is a Republican nominee, if he's in jail, or even if he's not in jail. Or vice versa, that Trump is somehow not able to be the nominee, and it's somebody else, and the Trump people going, well, everyone else sucks, and it's all a big conspiracy, and they're all the same except our beloved Donald Trump, and we're just staying home. I would say to both these damn groups, if we don't all pull on the rope together, it's probably over. If the party splits, the Democrats are going to win such huge majorities in the House and in the Senate, they're going to feel like they can do anything. And if I were them, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm an amoral, achieve power at any cost, wreck the system, it doesn't matter as long as I stay in power. I'd pack the Supreme Court. I would just do it, you know, and I don't think it would be that hard. Once you've done that, the game's just about over, because then any kind of case that goes before them that has to do with, say, gun ownership, does the Second Amendment exist? Does the First Amendment exist? We're going to win all those cases. You know, you're going to the Supreme Court is basically going to say you don't have the right to speak freely. You don't have the right to own a gun. You don't have the right to worship any way you want. You're going to lose these fundamental rights. It's just about over, and I think it probably will be over if the party splits. Last time the Republican Party split, I believe, I haven't walked it through every last year, but I think it was 1912. 1912, in a scenario very similar to what's going on right now, where Theodore Roosevelt, he was the president for 1901 to 1908. He was done being president, wanted to go off and chase buffalo in Africa or whatever. Anointed William Howard Taft as his appointed successor. He won the election. He's president. 4 years go by. TR comes back, TR, Theodore Roosevelt. He comes back and says, I don't like the way things are going. You're not doing things the way I would have done them. I don't approve. I'm going to challenge you in the primary. And he lost. And then he ran third party. He would not back William Howard Taft. He split the party. What was the result? Well, you got one of the worst humans ever to be president of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, an avowed racist, an awful person, and you ended up with the Federal Reserve System, the federal income tax, and World War I. So hooray for Woodrow Wilson. Hooray for Theodore Roosevelt, who helped make it happen. So that's what we're looking at here if we don't all pull on the rope in the same direction at the same time. So we all need to think about that before you just go off in a huff and say, I'm taking my ball and going home. We need you. Good Lord, we need you. So think about that. And that's what I'm going to try to sell to Mr. Republican that voted for Biden in 20. It's like, good Lord, man, we need you. We need you, man. This is not a game anymore. There are real world ramifications to who wins this election that affect me, affects everybody. And then, of course, the hardcore commie, a very discouraging conversation. It totally brainwashed. We argued over that, and by that I mean we screamed at each other. But, it's just, to me, the brainwashing is a compliment. In other words, you're brainwashed. I'm not brainwashed. Well, the alternative is you're evil, because most of what the Democrats stand for now is just flat evil. This lawfare that they're putting forth on Donald Trump is evil. This is ridiculous. We could have tried to put Hillary Clinton in jail, and Donald Trump chose not to because he's not a fool. That sort of escalation comes back to you. But that's, of course, the point I'm trying to make to him is this is dangerous what you're doing, incredibly dangerous. But he doesn't see it that way because he has no ability to critically think. His team has told him that Donald Trump's a monster. He's guilty. That's another thing that's frightening, is that this guy has no intention of looking at the evidence. He's taken his team's accusations at face value. He's not going to look at the evidence. He's simply voting guilty. And I view him as the prototypical Democrat juror. That's how they're all going to act. They're not going to look at the evidence. They don't think. These people feel. They don't think. They have no capacity to think critically. I don't know if is it in there and it can be brought out, or they were just simply born without that ability. I'm not sure on that one. So based on this conversation, and he did say one thing that I found kind of, worrisome. Basically, well, you're in the minority. In other words, well, there's more of us than there are of you, and we can do whatever we want. In other words, as if having more of some on an issue makes you right. Well, obviously it doesn't. And he couldn't be any more wrong about basically everything. But, that's how these guys are thinking. One of the norms that they're just happily destroying, smash, boom, is the rights of the majority. Or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The rights of the minority. That's one of the norms in this country that we've had for over 200 years that has kept this country strong, is that when you get in power, you don't just go do anything and everything that you can do, because at some point the worm is going to turn and you're going to be out of power. And then the minority, who you just abused the living shit out of for however many years, they are in power and maybe they want to beat the hell out of you now. You don't do it because of that cycle. Well, now, we're done with cycles, apparently. Barack Obama and company now have decided we're never giving power up. So it doesn't matter if we destroy the minority. Let's just go ahead and destroy them because they're never getting power back. We're never going to have to take that retaliatory punch because they're going to be dead. And that is the way these guys are thinking. And it's pretty scary. And they're also thinking like there's absolutely nothing the minority is going to do. In other words, we're just going to sit here, like think of any minority that just got wiped out through the course of history and just took it. That we're just going to sit there like that and take it. That there's not going to be any kind of blowback that's going to come back to them. It's like, okay, you're being pretty foolish. That's why what you're doing is so dangerous. You just think that we're just going to sit here and take it. But, based on that conversation with brainwashed Democrat, I would say Donald Trump is almost certainly going to get convicted. And, I've been thinking about that. Where this is headed. And it's headed that way pretty quickly. A matter of months. They were talking about doing this Georgia trial in March. That's what, 7-8 months off? This is, I thought about the fork in the road, and that sometimes in life, the most important things in your life are happening and you don't realize it at the time. I can think of a number of moments in my life where I would like to go back and say, wait, I'd like to do that over again. But obviously you can't. This is one where I think I see the fork coming, and I'm, honestly not sure what to do. I wonder if Donald Trump thinks about his fork. In other words, he's over here right now. He's over here, and he's just about in the jail cell. And I wonder if he's thinking, damn, I guess there was a fork about a year ago where I could have, still walked away from all this and lived the life of a millionaire and not had all this happen to me. I never really thought it was a fork. I just thought, I never gave a real thought about quitting. I never seriously considered that path. But, this guy is very likely going to be placed in jail. It's almost unthinkable. It's hard to conceive of that's where we're at in the United States of America. This is the kind of thing that just does not happen here. For that matter, I don't think it really happens in any Western democracies. And here we are. So, and perhaps that's what Donald Trump keeps telling himself. Somehow this is going to work out. They don't really mean to put me in jail. This just doesn't happen in a democracy where you're going to put the opposition leader in jail over what's just crap, just nonsense, just bullshit, just trumped up crap. But it's almost certain to happen. That's what I'm concluding, sadly. So once I've concluded that, then, I kind of have seen this fork for me, where here I am, and I'm about here probably, I'm somewhere in here. You know, if I have gone down this one path or that path, you know, I'm close enough where I could probably go back and still go the other path. Donald Trump's too late for him. In other words, if he tries to go back, they're still going to charge him at this point. He can't like say, I give up, you win, I won't run for president. They're still going to try to put him in jail. I had the conversation with Mr. Comey, and Mr. Comey said, he's going to jail. You know, there was no, Mr. Comey believes that there's no linkage between these charges, these 91 counts that have never been levied against a politician ever, a guy running for office like this, a high office, never like this, a leading candidate. It has happened once where it was not a leading candidate, a shameful episode where the aforementioned scumbag Woodrow Wilson put Eugene Debs in prison because he didn't want to get involved in World War I. He was a socialist running for president, and he didn't want the United States involved in World War I. Well, they threw him in jail. A very shameful episode for the United States and the Democrats who did it. But, so here you have Trump, you know, there. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, like I said, Mr. Comey is not going to allow him to backtrack. They're going to charge him at this point, regardless of what he does. They're going to try to put him in jail. My point is, if I keep making these videos, they're going to throw me in jail. I mean, I see that pretty clearly. You know, at some point, if I just keep running my mouth and make, you know, more and more videos, you know, I'm just waving my golf club around in a thunderstorm. If they put Donald Trump in jail, they'll do anything. And conditions are likely to get worse where free speech will be curtailed, whether it be on Rumble or X. They'll just, I don't see on YouTube, they used to not let you talk about election interference or the rigging of elections. For a while, that was just verboten. They would just take your video down. You couldn't even bring up the topic. Now suddenly they're letting you do it. Why? Well, it's a trap. It's a trap. It's almost certainly being done at the behest of the CIA and the FBI, where they want you to talk about that stuff so they can arrest you. So, you know, I see it coming. So I don't know. You know, I part of me, you know, knowing me, I often think to myself, I'd burn the whole world down if it meant I was right. I think sometimes that that's how I am. So, of course, if that is true, I'll keep doing these videos just so I can get arrested, just so I can prove a point. Now, I don't know. You know, I could have a nice life and just shut up, just like everybody else, and just, you know, well, all right. I can still watch sports. You know, they're probably not going to let me drive cars on Tuesday and Thursday anymore because of the global warming lockdowns. But, you know, if I just shut up, I could still live a pretty nice life. And they probably will forgive what I used to say if I just, you know, button down and say, I've changed. I'm not a rebel rouser. I love Big Brother. I love Big Brother. I love him, you know. So I kind of see the fork here for me. And I honestly don't know if we're going to make these videos over and over and over and over again. That's what I don't think a lot of people appreciate, that a lot of people see this. That's where I was talking to Mr. Comey, trying to get this through his moronic brain, that this is so dangerous of what they're doing. And of course, you know, they are just giddy that they're doing it, that they get to get Trump and they get to watch him go to jail, and they're going to jerk themselves off until they can't jerk off anymore. And they don't understand, it's like you're going to create blowback. You don't think that anything's going to come back to you. You don't think that the other side has any kind of comeback to that. You're fools. And of course, then there's the other side of it. Your own side may come get you. At what point does your own side turn on you? Kind of like when, these liberated commie women that are on the swimming teams that are all, yay, communism. This is so great. One for one and all for one and one for all. And then here comes Leah Thomas, the dude, the guy, the Antifa guy, who is now swimming in their sport, and he's a man, and they're like, wait a minute, I've worked so hard to be a good swimmer and be competitive, and I can't compete with this guy. He's a man. He's just faster in the water. Now they're kind of like, oh, well, now suddenly this communist stuff really doesn't seem so much fun. So until your ox is gored, it's all fun and games. What was it, Niemöller, who said around World War II, first they came for the communists, but I wasn't a communist. Of course, in this case, that's kind of out of place because they are communists. But in other words, that was the fascist thing where Hitler was coming for the groups. Then they came for the trade unionists, but I wasn't a trade unionist, so I said nothing. And then when they came for me, no one was left to speak out for me. Well, that's going to be these people, my idiot inner circle member. They'll come for you too at some point. And wherever I'll be, I will laugh my ass off when that happens. But maybe I won't because I'll be dead. Well, maybe I'll know about it wherever I am in heaven, hopefully. And then I'll laugh my ass off. But this is real world stuff right now. This is serious stuff. There's just nothing funny about it, which I think is, I was flipping through the channels in the middle of the night, like I generally sometimes do. I have the sound off, of course, and I stumbled on one of the late night channels, and there's Seth Meyers. He's just making joke after joke about Trump and Giuliani, and he's yucking it up, ha 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 ha. And I'm thinking, these people have no idea of the damage they're causing, of the shitstorm that's about to happen. It does, and half the reason I make these videos is just on the off chance that there might be an independent, might be a Democrat watching it who's got some modicum of an open mind, where I'm begging these people, think about what you're doing. Once you're going down this path, there's no stopping. If you don't think that the Republicans may have an answer at some point, and it could be a vicious answer. They may not turn the other cheek this time. But you're going down this road, and it's going to wreck our country. It is just going to flat wreck this country. we're not going to know, where we live anymore. It's going to be so different. Like I said, I have a whole episode where I can just walk you through some of the details of how this is going to go down. Any number of scenarios once this guy goes to jail. And none of them are good. None of them are good. I'll just throw the most likely one at you, and that's probably the Newt Gingrich scenario, because he had an interview and he basically said, this is going to lead to a generation of bitterness. Basically, in other words, the Republicans will do nothing. We'll do nothing. Someone will run for president, whether it be Trump from jail or somebody else will be the nominee. But regardless of that, there'll be, a generation of bitterness. Well, so nothing will happen. Not really. In other words, people will be divorced. Familial bonds will be broken over this. People will not talk to friends. Friendships will end over this. That's real stuff. Relationships shattered over this. No more coming over and saying, all right, well, We'll talk about sports or what have you. No, sooner or later, the Democrat will say something infuriating, and that'll be it. They'll make a joke or something, and, oh, it's a funny joke, right, Trump? I've got one of those right now, a Democrat friend who I'm just about to cut off altogether because he just does not understand. He can't see how Republicans feel about what's being done to Donald Trump. He can't see it. He can't see it. Or he doesn't care, worse yet. And he's just about to be excommunicated because he, just keeps making idiotic joke after idiotic joke. And it's like, there's nothing funny about this, man. There's nothing funny about people having their lives wrecked, people going to jail for exercising free speech. There's nothing funny about that. So, and that's the most likely scenario, and there's nothing good about that scenario. All the rest are worse. All the rest are worse. But we'll cover that in a future episode. All right, I don't think I have anything else more for you this evening. Who was I going to say? Jeff Brown sent me a message, says he likes these episodes. So good. Thank you, Jeff Brown. I think he outed himself on a board here. I was calling him Jeff Blue. He outed himself. So now he's Jeff Brown. There. Try to find him. So you know how many Browns there are in the phone book? You'll never find him. You don't want to find him. Nobody wants to find Jeff Brown. So, all right, good enough. Very well. We'll talk again. I sort of believe in free speech. I don't know if I believe in free speech or not because, it's about to be taken from me forcibly, and I'm not sure I want to do that. I'm kind of thinking like Donald Trump maybe should have thought about a year ago. It's like, do I really want to, do this? Do I really? Too late for him. He's doing it, and I don't know what's going to happen to him. I honestly don't. And I feel bad for him. This should not be happening to this man. This should not be happening. All right, serious times, serious times. We still have a little free speech, a little. I believe in it. I'm Eric Arnold.